Hello there, and welcome to the Sleepy Science Channel. I'm so glad you're here. Maybe it's been a long day. Or maybe you're the kind of person who likes to fall asleep thinking about deep time and ancient creatures instead of sheep. Either way, tonight's journey is for you. You don't need to do anything now but rest. Let your breath slow, your thoughts soften, and your body grow heavy, as if it's been part of the earth forever. Because tonight, we're going to wander quietly through the story of life, not in a straight line, but as a branching, tangled tree. A story told not in words, but in fossils and feathers, and leftover genes hidden in your cells. From jellyfish that age in reverse to birds that still carry the shadows of dinosaurs, evolution is everywhere, even in you. We'll go slowly, gently, just one strange fact at a time. And just before we begin, if these quiet explorations help you unwind or give you a peaceful way to end your day, consider gently tapping the like button and subscribing to the channel. It helps others find their way here too, one sleepy soul at a time. Now, let's begin. Human embryos briefly have tails. During the early weeks of human development, a tiny tail extends from the base of the embryo's spine, a clear, evolutionary echo of our ancestors. This tail is made of vertebrae and even includes muscles and nerves. It begins forming around day 28 of development and reaches its peak length a week or so later. Then, in most cases, it's reabsorbed by the body, becoming the tailbone, or coccyx. Occasionally, babies are born with small tails still intact, a rare but fascinating glimpse into our evolutionary past. It's a quiet reminder that we once shared a body plan with creatures who used that tail for balance, climbing, or swimming. There are more bacterial genes in your body than human ones. Your body contains about 20,000 human genes, but the bacteria that live in and on you carry millions more. These microbes aren't just passengers. They help digest your food, shape your immune system, and even influence your mood and behavior. Most live in your gut, forming what scientists call the microbiome, an ecosystem that co-evolved with humans over millions of years. Some of these bacteria are passed down through generations, inherited just as surely as your DNA. Others are picked up from food, soil, and other people. You are not just a single organism. You're a walking, thinking community, part human, part microbial, and entirely shaped by evolutionary history. Eyeless cavefish still grow eye sockets and then absorb them. In the dark, silent waters of underground caves, some species of fish have lost their eyes entirely. But here's the strange part. Their embryos still begin to develop them. Tiny eye structures form, just like in their sighted relatives. But then the growth stops. The cells begin to break down, and the tissue is absorbed back into the body. This phenomenon, called regressive evolution, reveals how evolution removes what is no longer useful. It's often more efficient to shut something down than to rewire it from scratch. Even in blindness, these cavefish carry the quiet blueprint of sight, an echo of light that once guided their ancestors. Whale pelvis bones are still there. Whales still carry faint traces of the legs they left behind. Deep within the soft tissue near their hips lie tiny pelvic bones, no longer connected to limbs, but still present. These structures once supported walking legs in their land-dwelling ancestors. Over millions of years, as their descendants adapted to aquatic life, the bones shrank and lost their original function. Yet evolution rarely deletes a structure entirely. Instead, it repurposes, modifies, or simply lets it linger. The vestigial pelvis in whales is a quiet anatomical fossil, a remnant of a body that once walked, now gliding silently through the sea. The giraffe's neck has only 7 vertebrae. The giraffe's neck, though astonishingly long, is built from the same number of vertebrae found in nearly all mammals, just 7. Each vertebra has simply stretched and expanded over time, forming the famous tower that allows giraffes to browse treetops or spar with their necks during ritual combat. This constraint, the 7-bone blueprint, shows how evolution tends to modify existing structures rather than invent new ones from scratch. A longer neck wasn't created by adding new bones, but by elongating what was already there. Even the most dramatic changes often come from small tweaks to familiar blueprints. Dolphins and bats both independently evolved echolocation. Echolocation, the ability to see with sound, evolved independently in both dolphins and bats, 2 animals separated by millions of years and utterly different environments. Dolphins use sonar to navigate the murky ocean. Bats use high-pitched squeaks to hunt insects in the dark. Despite these differences, both lineages evolved similar genetic changes to their hearing and sound-producing machinery. This is a striking case of convergent evolution, when similar challenges lead unrelated species down the same evolutionary path. Sound became a way to pierce the darkness, 2 solutions, crafted twice, in total isolation. Flight evolved more than once. The skies are full of creatures with wings, but they didn't all get them the same way. Birds, bats, and insects all evolved flight independently. Even pterosaurs, the extinct flying reptiles, had a different wing structure from modern birds. In each case, evolution took what was available, an arm, a membrane, a set of scales, and reshaped it into something capable of lifting an animal into the air. These multiple inventions of flight are a reminder that evolution isn't a straight line. It's a process of improvisation, trial and error, and opportunity. And sometimes it takes to the skies in 4 entirely different ways. Human and banana DNA are shockingly similar. It might be hard to believe, but humans and bananas share around 60% of their DNA. That's because much of the genetic code across all life on Earth is made from the same ancient ingredients. Genes for basic cellular processes, like copying DNA, breaking down sugars, or making proteins, are so fundamental that they've been passed down across billions of years. The differences lie in how those genes are arranged, expressed, and adapted. You are obviously not a banana. But on a molecular level, you're both running variations of the same deeply ancient code. Some lizards don't need males to reproduce. In certain species of lizards, females have evolved the ability to reproduce entirely without males. This process, called parthenogenesis, allows a single female to create offspring that are genetic clones of herself. It's rare among vertebrates, but in some desert-dwelling lizards, it has become the norm. While this method can limit genetic diversity, it also has advantages. A lone individual can found a new population. No mate required. It's a striking example of how evolution can shape reproduction in ways that break the usual rules, especially in harsh or isolated environments where opportunities for mating are few and far between. All life on Earth shares a common ancestor. Every plant, every animal, every fungus and microbe that has ever lived on this planet, from whales to willow trees to the bacteria in your gut, is part of the same unbroken tree of life. If you traced the branches far enough back in time, past mass extinctions and shifting continents, you'd arrive at a single ancient cell. It lived over 3.5 billion years ago, in a world without oxygen, long before the first fish or fern. Its genetic material survives in every living creature today. You are not just connected to your parents and grandparents, but to mushrooms, coral reefs, and even pond scum, all cousins in a vast and ancient family. Whales evolved from four-legged land mammals. Long before they swam the oceans, the ancestors of modern whales walked on land. They had hooves, long snouts, and limbs built for wading through shallow rivers. Over tens of millions of years, their descendants gradually became more aquatic. Their legs shortened, their tails broadened, and their nostrils migrated toward the top of their heads. Fossils like Picacetus and Ambulocetus capture this transition beautifully. Animals with both land-going limbs and ear bones suited for underwater hearing. Today's whales still carry the hidden legacy of that transformation, with tiny, vestigial hip bones buried deep in their flesh. What began as a four-legged forager became the largest animal the world has ever seen. Birds are the living descendants of dinosaurs. The next time you see a sparrow or a crow, try to imagine it as a tiny, feathered dinosaur, because that's exactly what it is. Modern birds evolved from a branch of small, fast, feathered theropods, the same group that includes Velociraptor and Tyrannosaurus rex. These ancient creatures already had hollow bones, sharp vision, and feathers used for warmth or display. Over time, their limbs became wings, and their skeletons grew lighter. But evolution didn't erase their ancestry. Birds still lay eggs. They still have claws, beaks, and even traces of dinosaur genes in their DNA. Every robin, every owl, every pigeon you pass is a dinosaur that learned to fly. Vestigial structures are evolution's footnotes. Throughout the bodies of animals, including our own, are features that no longer serve their original function. These are vestigial structures, evolutionary leftovers that were once useful but now persist in altered or diminished form. Human goosebumps are one example. They once helped our hairy ancestors puff up their fur to stay warm or appear larger to predators. Today, they serve little purpose. The human appendix, too, is thought to be a remnant of a plant-digesting organ used by distant herbivorous ancestors. Evolution rarely erases things cleanly. It modifies, repurposes, and occasionally forgets, leaving behind quiet anatomical clues to our past. Antibiotic resistance is evolution in fast forward. When bacteria are exposed to antibiotics, most die, but sometimes a few survive, thanks to random genetic mutations. These survivors multiply rapidly, passing along their resistance. In just weeks or months, an entire population can evolve immunity to a drug but once killed it. This is evolution happening not over millions of years, but within a single hospital or farm. It's a vivid example of natural selection in action, traits that increase survival spread through the population. Antibiotic resistance is a global health crisis, but also a powerful real-time demonstration of how relentless and adaptable evolution can be. The platypus is a genetic time capsule. With a duck-like bill, fur, webbed feet, and the ability to lay eggs, the platypus seems almost too strange to be real. But every part of its body tells a story of evolutionary history. It produces milk like a mammal, but lays eggs like a reptile. It has electroreception, detecting the electrical signals of its prey underwater, a rare trait among mammals. Its genes are equally strange. The platypus has 10 sex chromosomes, some resembling those of birds. It's not a mashup, it's a living snapshot of evolutionary branching, showing what can happen when a lineage takes its own strange path through deep time. Jaw muscles may have made room for big brains. In humans, a key gene that once built powerful jaw muscles called NYH16 carries a mutation that renders it inactive. Our ancient primate relatives had large chewing muscles and smaller skulls. But in early humans, the loss of this gene may have reduced the mechanical pressure on the skull, allowing the brain case to expand. Whether the mutation caused bigger brains or simply allowed them, it reveals the subtle, unexpected trade-offs in evolution. Sometimes a genre breaks, and something extraordinary grows in the space it leaves behind. Enamel genes reveal our fishy origins. Your teeth carry traces of your aquatic ancestry. Hidden in the human genome are broken versions of the genes that once produced enamel across the body, not just on teeth, but on skin. In ancient fish, a hard enamel-like coating helped protect their entire exterior. Over evolutionary time, those genes were lost or repurposed as animals transitioned to land and developed internal skeletons. Today, enamel appears only on teeth, and the rest of the body is soft. But the ghost of that armor remains, coded in your DNA like an evolutionary whisper from long before limbs ever touched dry ground. Tiktaalik was the fish that walked. Discovered in 2004, Tiktaalik is a 375 million-year-old fossil that bridges the gap between fish and four-legged land animals. It had gills and fins, but also lungs and wrist-like bones, structures capable of supporting its body in shallow water or on muddy flats. With its flat head and flexible neck, it resembled a cross between a fish and a salamander. Tiktaalik is not our direct ancestor, but it is part of the transitional puzzle that explains how life moved from water to land. Evolution doesn't leap, it builds, one tiny change at a time, until fins become feet and rivers give rise to forests. Tasmanian wolves were dogs by another name. The extinct Tasmanian wolf, or thylacine, looked remarkably like a dog, pointed ears, striped back and all, but it wasn't even a placental mammal. It was a marsupial, more closely related to kangaroos than to wolves. On the isolated continent of Australia, it evolved a nearly identical skull shape, gait, and hunting behavior to true wolves through a process called Convergent evolution. Despite being separated by over 100 million years of evolution, the needs of a meat-eating predator sculpted both animals into the same form. Evolution often repeats itself. Not exactly, but close enough to be eerie. Penguins gave up flight to master the ocean. Penguins didn't forget how to fly, they traded it away. Over millions of years, their wings shrank and stiffened, becoming perfect flippers for diving. Their bones became heavier, no longer hollow like those of flying birds. Their feathers compacted into dense, waterproof layers. These changes gave them extraordinary agility underwater, where they fly through the sea with the grace of torpedoes. This shift came at a cost. They could no longer take to the skies. But evolution doesn't aim for perfection, only sufficiency. In the frigid waters of the Southern Ocean, penguins are as finely tuned as any eagle in flight. Horses used to have toes. Modern horses stand on a single toe. Their powerful hooves are enlarged middle toes, evolved for speed and endurance on open plains. But if you go back over 50 million years, early horses like Eohippus had 4 toes on their front feet and 3 on their hind feet. These small, forest-dwelling creatures padded through dense undergrowth on soft, multi-toed feet. As grasslands spread and predators became faster, natural selection favored longer limbs and simpler, more efficient feet. Side toes shrank and vanished. What remains today is a streamlined limb, descended from a once sprawling foot, an elegant compromise between ancestry and environment. Moths can jam bat radar. Some tiger moths have evolved the ability to confuse their greatest predator, the bat. Using specialized organs called tymbals, these moths emit rapid ultrasonic clicks while in flight. To human ears, it's silence, but to a hunting bat using echolocation, it's static, a sonic cloud that can blur the outlines of the moth's body or suggest a false location. This acoustic defense is a rare example of biological countermeasures, like sonar jamming in military technology. It's an evolutionary arms race, played out in darkness. Every refinement in bat sonar is met with an upgrade in moth stealth. Seahorse dads carry the babies. In most of the animal kingdom, females carry the embryos, but not in seahorses. Here, the roles are reversed. The female deposits her eggs into a pouch on the male's belly, where he fertilizes and protects them as they develop. The pouch supplies oxygen, nutrients, and even contractions during birth. This reversal of parental roles is rare among vertebrates, but in seahorses, it's the norm. Evolution doesn't follow social conventions, it responds to what works. In the tangled seagrass where seahorses live, this arrangement gives mothers more time to produce eggs, while fathers guard the next generation. Naked mole rats don't feel pain the same way. Naked mole rats live underground in dark, crowded tunnels with high levels of carbon dioxide. Over time, they evolved to handle this environment in ways that almost no other mammals can. One of the most unusual traits? They don't feel certain kinds of pain. Their nerve receptors don't respond to acid or capsaicin, the chemical that makes chili peppers burn. This insensitivity likely evolved as a side effect of adapting to their stuffy, acidic tunnels. In their strange world, pain signals would be constant and useless. So evolution turned them off. It's one of many oddities that make these wrinkled rodents evolutionary outliers. Elephants rotate their teeth forward. Unlike humans, who have one set of adult teeth that emerge from below, elephants have a conveyor belt system. Their massive molars grow deep within their jaws and slowly move forward as older teeth wear down. Over a lifetime, they cycle through 6 sets of these grinding plates. Each new molar grows larger and tougher than the one before, capable of chewing bark, roots, and fibrous vegetation. Eventually, even the final pair wears out, and in the wild, this can determine an elephant's lifespan. It's a quiet example of how evolution shapes not just bodies, but the passage of time within them. Human skin color evolved many times. Skin color in humans is one of the most visible examples of evolution in action, and it didn't happen just once. Populations living in high UV environments evolved darker skin to protect against DNA damage and preserve folate, while those in low UV zones evolved lighter skin to absorb more sunlight for vitamin D synthesis. But this happened independently in different parts of the world. For example, dark-skinned populations in Africa and southern India are genetically distinct, and the light skin of Europeans and East Asians evolved through different genetic mutations. Human skin tone is not a linear gradient, but a patchwork of local evolutionary solutions to sunlight. The pronghorn is too fast for its predators. North America's pronghorn antelope can run at speeds over 55 miles per hour, far faster than any of its living predators. But the reason lies in the past. During the Ice Age, pronghorns shared the plains with now-extinct American cheetahs, fleet-footed hunters that pushed prey to evolve greater speed. When those predators vanished, the pronghorn kept its running ability. It's now a species built for a race that no longer happens. Evolution leaves traces not just of what exists, but of what's gone, a kind of ecological ghostwriting, written into bones, sinews, and astonishing bursts of speed. Your laryngeal nerve loops through your chest. In the human body, one of the nerves that controls your voice, the recurrent laryngeal nerve, takes an oddly long path. Instead of going directly from your brain to your voice box, it loops down into your chest and wraps around the aorta before returning upward. This detour is an evolutionary relic. In fish, The nerve took a short route around a nearby artery. As necks and chests grew longer in our tetrapod ancestors, the nerve was stretched, but it never rerouted. Even in giraffes, the same nerve takes this absurd detour, stretching over 15 feet. Evolution doesn't rebuild from scratch. It remodels what's already there. Cacti and euphorbias are lookalikes without a common ancestor. Cacti in the Americas and euphorbias in Africa look strikingly similar, both with thick, ribbed stems, spines, and water-storing tissues. But they are not closely related at all. Their similarity is a result of convergent evolution, different lineages arriving at the same adaptations in response to the same environmental pressures. Both plants needed to conserve water, deter herbivores, and survive intense sun. Evolution sculpted them into the same solution, from completely different starting materials. If you didn't know better, you might think they were twins, but their resemblance is only skin deep. Color vision evolved in different ways. Humans see the world in rich color, thanks to 3 types of comb cells in the eye. But we're not alone. Birds, butterflies, mantis shrimp, and some reptiles see even more colors, many extending into ultraviolet. What's fascinating is that color vision evolved independently across different animal groups. Insects and vertebrates don't use the same genes or even the same retinal pigments. They simply arrived at similar solutions. In some primates, color vision re-evolved after earlier ancestors had lost it. Evolution doesn't preserve traits unless they serve a purpose, but it's willing to reinvent them when the conditions are right. Crocodiles are living fossils, sort of. Crocodilians today look almost identical to their ancient ancestors from over 200 million years ago. This has earned them the nickname living fossils. But while their external form hasn't changed much, their internal biology has continued to evolve. Crocodiles have incredibly efficient circulatory systems, capable of holding their breath for over an hour. Their hearts are uniquely adapted to diving. Their behaviors, including maternal care and vocal communication, are surprisingly advanced. Evolution doesn't always mean visible change. Sometimes, stability itself is the adaptation, a sign that the ancient design still works in the modern world. Marsupials and placentals had a parallel evolution. Marsupials, animals like kangaroos, koalas, and wombats, evolved separately from placental mammals. Yet both groups ended up with remarkably similar forms. There are marsupial versions of moles, anteaters, mice, and even wolves. These mirror forms are another example of convergent evolution. On different continents, in isolated evolutionary theaters, similar ecological pressures produced similar shapes. It's not that one group copied the other. It's that the environment sculpted them the same way. Evolution doesn't care where a solution comes from, only that it works. Woodpeckers evolved natural shock absorbers. A woodpecker strikes wood with up to 1,000 times the force of gravity, yet its brain doesn't rattle. That's because it has evolved a suite of adaptations to absorb the impact. These include a thickened skull, a flexible beak tip, a spongy bone structure, and even a specialized hyalic bone that wraps around the skull like a safety harness. Its eyes also close milliseconds before impact to prevent retinal damage. None of this happened overnight. It took countless tiny steps over millions of years, each one preserving the birds that could peck a little harder and survive. Flatfish evolved asymmetrical faces. Flatfish like flounders and halibut begin life looking like ordinary fish, with one eye on each side of the head. But as they develop, one eye slowly migrates to join the other, and the fish begins to swim sideways along the sea floor. The adult body becomes entirely asymmetrical. This strange transformation is the result of a unique evolutionary path, that allowed fat fish to blend perfectly into the ocean floor. Fossils show transitional forms with halfway shifted eyes, capturing the process mid-mutation. Evolution does not need to make symmetrical beauty. It only needs to make survival work. Koalas have fingerprints like ours. Koalas have fingerprints so detailed and human-like that even under a microscope, they can be hard to tell apart from ours. The ridged loops and whorls evolved independently, not from a common ancestor with primates, but as a result of convergent evolution. Fingerprints provide traction for gripping, especially on smooth bark, and may aid in tactile sensitivity. That means koalas, climbing quietly through eucalyptus trees, independently arrived at the same friction-enhancing feature that humans use for tool-making. Nature often revisits its best ideas, even in unexpected places. Some butterflies have transparent wings. While most butterflies dazzle with vivid color, some have evolved nearly invisible wings. Species like the glasswing butterfly of Central America have scales that are spaced apart or absent, allowing light to pass through. The effect is astonishing. The wings become panes of living glass. This adaptation provides camouflage, making it harder for predators to spot them in flight. Transparency in land animals is rare, but in the dappled light of a rainforest, it's a powerful form of invisibility. Evolution didn't create these wings from scratch. It simply reduced the parts that reflected light, letting the world shine through. Mole rats evolved to live without oxygen. Naked mole rats are full of evolutionary surprises, but one of their strangest adaptations is their ability to survive without oxygen. In low-oxygen environments, they switch their metabolism to use fructose instead of glucose, a trick normally seen only in plants. This shift helps keep their brain and heart functioning, even when oxygen levels drop to near zero. Most mammals would die within minutes under such conditions. But mole rats, shaped by millions of years in cramped, poorly ventilated tunnels, evolved a workaround. They're among the only mammals known to survive true anoxia by borrowing a strategy from the plant kingdom. Dogs can read human emotions better than chimps. Through thousands of years of domestication, dogs evolved the rare ability to read subtle human cues, including facial expressions, tone of voice, and even where we're pointing. Studies show dogs outperform chimpanzees in interpreting human social gestures, despite chimps being our closest relatives. This skill likely evolved through close partnership with humans. Early dogs that were better at anticipating human intentions may have been fed more, sheltered more, or trusted more. Over time, evolution favored emotional attunement. Your dog isn't just loyal, it's biologically wired to understand you. Octopuses can edit their own RNA. Unlike most animals, octopuses have the remarkable ability to edit their own RNA, the molecule that helps turn genetic instructions into proteins. This means they can fine-tune which proteins get made in real time, allowing flexible responses to their environment. It's not a permanent change to their DNA, but a temporary shift in how that DNA is expressed. This mechanism is rare and may come at a cost. Octopuses seem to sacrifice genetic mutation rates in exchange for greater short-term adaptability. In a constantly changing, information-rich world like the ocean, evolution gave them a flexible mind and a body to match. Birds see colors humans cannot imagine. Many birds have 4 types of color receptors in their eyes, compared to our 3, allowing them to see ultraviolet light and combinations of colors that lie beyond human perception. What looks like a plain brown sparrow to us might be a riot of UV-reflecting patterns to another bird. This expanded vision plays a role in mate selection, navigation, and foraging. Feathers that appear dull to us can glow vividly under the right light. Evolution has tuned their eyes to see a richer world, one we cannot even fully describe. Some sea slugs can photosynthesize. The bright green sea slug, Elesiochlorotica, has evolved the ability to steal chloroplasts, the light-harvesting parts of algae, and keep them functioning inside its own cells. This allows the slug to photosynthesize, using sunlight to make energy, just like a plant. The slug even seems to have incorporated some algal genes into its own DNA, possibly through horizontal gene transfer. It's a stunning case of evolutionary theft, one kingdom borrowing tools from another. For a brief time, this animal lives as a solar-powered hybrid, blurring the line between plant and animal. Kiwi birds use their nostrils to sniff out food. Most birds locate food by sight, but kiwis, small, flightless birds native to New Zealand, have taken a different evolutionary path. Their nostrils are located at the very tip of their long beaks, allowing them to sniff out insects, worms, and roots buried in the soil. Their sense of smell is among the strongest of all birds, an unusual trait that evolved alongside their nocturnal ground foraging lifestyle. While most birds rely on vision, kiwis use scent, an avian outlier, shaped by isolation and the quiet demands of a forest floor. Marsupial moles and true moles are lookalikes without kinship. Marsupial moles, native to Australia, and placental moles, found elsewhere in the world, look remarkably alike. Both are small, blind, and covered in dense fur. Both dig complex tunnel systems and have paddle-like forelimbs. But genetically, they are worlds apart. One is a marsupial, the other a placental mammal. Their similarities are the result of convergent evolution, not shared ancestry. Faced with the same subterranean lifestyle, evolution sculpted both animals into nearly identical forms, using entirely different starting materials. They are evolutionary echoes, two unrelated creatures, shaped into the same answer. Some orchids trick insects by imitating their mates. Certain orchid species have evolved to mimic the appearance and scent of female insects, luring unsuspecting males into attempting to mate with the flower. During these failed mating attempts, pollen sticks to the insect and is carried to the next flower. This form of deception is so precise that it often involves the mimicry of specific insect species, down to exact shape, color, and even pheromones. It's not just camouflage, it's seduction. In the game of survival, evolution sometimes favors illusion over honesty, and these orchids have become master manipulators in the plant world. Spider silk evolved into multiple high-performance materials. Spiders produce a variety of silks, each with different properties: sticky, stretchy, strong, or fine. These silks come from separate glands, each evolved to serve a unique purpose: trapping prey, wrapping eggs, building webs, or creating drag lines for escape. The evolution of silk was not a single event, but a series of innovations over hundreds of millions of years. Some silk is tougher than steel by weight, while others rival Kevlar in elasticity. It's one of nature's most versatile biomaterials, shaped not by a single invention, but by evolutionary layering of specialized function. Electric fish evolved organs from muscle. In several groups of fish, electricity has evolved independently, from rays to eels to knifefish. These electric organs began as modified muscle cells, which no longer contract, but instead produce small electrical charges. By stacking these cells and aligning their outputs, the fish can create voltage. In weakly electric fish, the field is used for navigation and communication. In stronger species like the electric eel, it's a weapon. The same biological tool, muscle, was transformed again and again into something shocking. Evolution didn't invent electricity. It just borrowed muscle and rewired it. bats are more closely related to whales than to mice. At first glance, a bat might seem like a close cousin to a mouse, small, furry, and nocturnal. But genetically, bats are more closely related to whales and humans than to rodents. All three belong to a group called Lurasiotheria, a major lineage of placental mammals. This surprising relationship highlights the limits of visual similarity. Evolution shapes animals to fit their environments, not to reflect their ancestry. Wings and whiskers can mislead. It's only when we look at genomes, not appearances, that we see the true shape of the evolutionary tree. Some frogs skip the tadpole stage entirely. While most frogs begin life as aquatic tadpoles, some species have evolved to bypass that stage completely. These frogs lay their eggs on land or in trees, and the embryos develop directly into tiny, fully formed froglets. In some cases, the young are even carried on the backs of their parents. This evolutionary shift eliminates the risky aquatic phase, protecting the young from predators and environmental fluctuations. It's a reminder that evolution doesn't just shape bodies, it reshapes life cycles. Even something as ancient as metamorphosis can be rewritten when the environment demands a better route. Axolotls stay juvenile their whole lives. The axolotl, a salamander native to Mexico, never undergoes full metamorphosis. Instead of transitioning into a land-dwelling adult, it retains its juvenile aquatic form into sexual maturity, a condition known as neoteny. It keeps its gills, flattened tail, and external fins, even while fully capable of reproducing. This evolutionary choice may have allowed the axolotl to thrive in a stable aquatic environment, avoiding the energy costs and risks of transformation. In a world where most amphibians are bound to metamorphosis, the axolotl took a different path, one that led to eternal youth. Pigeons can recognize themselves in a mirror. Mirror self-recognition is rare in the animal kingdom and is often considered a test of higher cognition. Surprisingly, pigeons, often dismissed as simple, can pass this test when properly trained. They can recognize a colored mark on their own bodies only visible in the reflection, and will try to remove it, showing they understand the image is of themselves. This suggests a level of self-awareness that evolved independently from primates, dolphins, or elephants. Evolution doesn't always place complexity where we expect it. Sometimes it hides it in the feathers of a city bird. Aye-ayes use their fingers like tools. The aye-aye, a nocturnal lemur from Madagascar, has evolved an unusually long, thin middle finger that it uses to tap on wood, listen for hollow spots, and extract grubs, a hunting method known as percussive foraging. This behavior is remarkably similar to how humans use tools. The aye-aye's finger is supported by a bowel socket joint, giving it a wide range of motion. Its ears are highly adapted to detect the sound of insect movement. This evolutionary niche, part bat, part woodpecker, part primate, shows how specialized anatomy and behavior can converge into a single, elegant solution. Gibbons swing with bowel socket wrists. Gibbons are the only primates that use brachiocean, arm-over-arm swinging, as their main form of locomotion. To do this efficiently, they evolved unique wrist joints with bowel socket structure, much like a shoulder. This allows the wrist to rotate freely, reducing strain and increasing speed. Combined with long fingers, strong shoulders, and light frames, gibbons can swing across gaps of over 30 feet. It's an acrobatic marvel, evolved not for show, but for survival in the treetop canopy. Evolution didn't invent new parts. It fine-tuned what was already there for graceful flight through the forest. Sloths digest their food at a glacial pace. Sloths have one of the slowest digestive systems in the animal kingdom. Their leafy diet is low in nutrients, and their metabolism is extraordinarily slow. It can take a sloth over 2 weeks to fully digest a single meal. To support this, they have multi-chambered stomachs filled with specialized microbes that break down tough plant fibers. Their sluggish movement, low body temperature, and minimal caloric needs are all part of the same evolutionary strategy. Do less, spend less, and avoid predators by becoming nearly invisible. In the rainforest canopy, patience is not just a virtue, it's a survival tactic. Some barnacles live inside whale skin. Barnacles are best known for clinging to rocks or ship hulls, but some have taken their parasitic lifestyle further. Certain species have evolved to burrow into the thick skin of whales, embedding themselves in living tissue. There, they feed by filtering plankton as their massive hosts swim through the ocean. This intimate relationship is so specialized that some barnacle species are found only on specific types of whales. It's a testament to how evolution can shape entire life cycles around a mobile living environment, turning a migratory mammal into a floating reef. Vampire bats evolved heat-sensing noses. Vampire bats, which feed on the blood of mammals and birds, have evolved an extraordinary adaptation. Specialized heat sensors on their noses that allow them to detect the warm flow of blood beneath skin. These sensors are highly sensitive, capable of locating veins with pinpoint accuracy in total darkness. The underlying mechanism is similar to that found in some snakes, but it evolved independently. The bat's razor-sharp teeth and anticoagulant-rich saliva are only part of the story. The real innovation is the ability to see blood through heat. Evolution, in this case, turned touch into thermal vision. The platypus has 10 sex chromosomes. Most mammals, including humans, have 2 sex chromosomes, X and Y. But the platypus, ever the evolutionary outlier, has 10, 5 X's and 5 Y's in males. These form a chain during reproduction, passing on combinations that scientists are still working to understand. Intriguingly, some of these chromosomes share features with birds, suggesting a link to a more ancient genetic system. This complex arrangement is one of many quirks that make the platypus a living mosaic of evolutionary history, part mammal, part reptile, part mystery. Some ferns haven't changed in over 180 million years. In fossil beds dating back to the Jurassic period, scientists have found fern fronds that are virtually identical to those growing today. These plants, sometimes called living fossils, have survived mass extinctions, climate shifts, and the rise and fall of entire ecosystems with barely a structural change. Their secret lies in resilience. Ferns reproduce with spores, can grow in diverse habitats, and tolerate poor soil. In evolutionary terms, they found a winning formula early and never needed to change much. In forests around the world, ancient green fronds still uncurl exactly as they did beneath the feet of dinosaurs. Jellyfish evolved stingers independently. Jellyfish belong to one of the oldest animal lineages on Earth, and their defining feature, the stinging cell, is unlike anything else in biology. These cells, called cnidocytes, contain tiny harpoons that fire on contact, injecting venom with lightning speed. They evolved independently of any other kind of weapon in the animal kingdom. Even more fascinating, jellyfish have no brain or central nervous system. Their bodies are simple, yet their stinging mechanism is incredibly complex. Evolution shaped them not for thinking, but for surviving. A floating system of reflexes and tentacles, drifting through 500 million years. Seahorses evolved monogamy in a world of fish. In the vast, fluid world of ocean life, lifelong pair bonds are rare, but seahorses are an exception. Many species form monogamous partnerships, greeting each other with daily rituals and even linking tails as they swim. This behavior is tied to their unique reproductive system, where males carry developing embryos in a pouch. Evolution seems to have favored stable partnerships in these slow-swimming creatures, making mate location and fertilization more reliable. In the sea of competition, the seahorse took a different path, one of bonding, shared investment, and a gentle kind of fidelity. Some ants evolved to explode. In the rainforests of Southeast Asia, certain species of Camponotus ants have evolved a dramatic last resort: self-destruction. When threatened, they contract abdominal muscles so powerfully that their bodies rupture, releasing sticky, toxic chemicals that immobilize attackers. This suicidal defense protects the colony at the cost of the individual, a stark example of how natural selection can favor self-sacrifice in social animals. It's not bravery in the human sense, but biology repurposed for cooperation. Evolution, in this case, shaped the body into a weapon not for hunting, but for defending others. Lungfish can survive years without water. Lungfish are ancient, air-breathing fish that evolved the ability to endure extreme drought. When their freshwater habitats dry up, they burrow into the mud and secrete a mucus cocoon, entering a state of suspended animation called aestivation. Their metabolism slows dramatically, and they can survive in this state for months, even years, until rains return. This adaptation evolved over millions of years in regions with unpredictable wet and dry seasons. It's a living snapshot of evolutionary flexibility, blurring the line between fish and amphibian, between motion and stasis, between life and waiting. Parrots evolved vocal learning like humans. Parrots are among the few non-human animals capable of true vocal learning, the ability to mimic complex sounds and develop dialects. Unlike instinctive calls, learned vocalizations require imitation, memory, and social context. This capacity evolved independently of human language, using entirely different neural circuits. Yet the outcome is strikingly similar, a flexible, dynamic way of communicating. Some wild parrots have even been observed using regional accents, and captive birds can mimic household sounds with eerie precision. Evolution, in parrots, unlocked something surprisingly close to culture, passed not by genes, but by voice. Anglerfish use bacteria to make light. In the pitch-black depths of the ocean, female anglerfish carry a luminous lure just above their mouths, used to attract prey. But the light doesn't come from their own bodies. It's produced by symbiotic bacteria housed in a special organ. These microbes evolved to live nowhere else, and the anglerfish evolved to feed and protect them. In return, the bacteria glow using a chemical process called bioluminescence. It's a relationship shaped by deep time and total darkness. Evolution building partnerships between organisms to create light where there is none. Giraffes have blood pressure twice as high as ours. To pump blood all the way to their towering heads, giraffes have evolved a cardiovascular system unlike any other. Their hearts are massive and powerful, capable of generating blood pressure over twice that of a human. Their arteries are thick and muscular, and special valves prevent backflow when they lower or raise their heads. Without these adaptations, the simple act of drinking water could cause brain damage. Evolution sculpted their bodies to accommodate this biological challenge, not just in the neck bones we see, but in the unseen rhythms of their hearts. Camels have oval red blood cells. Camels are famous for their humps, but one of their most remarkable adaptations is hidden in their bloodstream. Unlike the round red blood cells found in most mammals, camels have oval-shaped ones. This allows their blood to flow smoothly even when extremely dehydrated, as the cells are more flexible and less likely to clump together. They can lose up to 25% of their body's water, a level fatal to most animals, and still recover quickly when water returns. Evolution shaped their blood not just for survival, but for endurance in one of the harshest environments on Earth. Tree shrews can tolerate alcohol better than humans. In the forests of Southeast Asia, wild tree shrews regularly consume fermented nectar from the Bedtime palm, a drink with alcohol levels similar to beer. Yet they show no signs of intoxication. Genetic studies reveal that tree shrews have evolved highly efficient alcohol-metabolizing enzymes, allowing them to process ethanol without the behavioral effects seen in most mammals. It's thought that this trait helped them take advantage of a food source others avoided. Evolution, once again, found a way to turn risk into opportunity and shaped a species that can sip without stumbling. The tuatara has a third eye beneath its skin. The tuatara, a reptile native to New Zealand, is the sole survivor of a lineage that split from other reptiles over 200 million years ago. Among its many ancient features is a third eye, a light-sensitive organ buried beneath the skin on the top of its head. Though it doesn't form images, this parietal eye detects changes in light and may help regulate circadian rhythms or seasonal behavior. It's most visible in juveniles, fading as the tuatara matures. Evolution didn't erase this primitive feature, it simply tucked it beneath the surface, where it still quietly watches the sky. Wombats poop in cubes. Australian wombats are the only known animals that produce cube-shaped feces. This strange adaptation allows the poop to stack neatly, preventing it from rolling away, a useful trait for marking territory in the hilly terrain they inhabit. The cube shape isn't formed by a square-shaped anus, but by varying elasticity in different parts of the intestine. As the feces dry and compress, muscular contractions shape them into distinct edges. It's an example of how even the most mundane traits can be molded by evolutionary pressures and how geometry can arise from gut biology. Some spiders evolved to mimic ants. In the insect world, ants are feared and respected for their strength and organization. Some spiders have evolved to exploit that reputation by mimicking ants almost perfectly. They narrow their waists, wave their front legs like antennae, and adopt jerky, ant-like movements. This disguise can help them avoid predators or sneak into ant colonies unnoticed. It's not just visual mimicry, it's behavioral. Evolution shaped their bodies and habits to copy another species entirely. It's a quiet form of camouflage, built not from invisibility, but from imitation. Peacock tails are a product of sexual selection. The elaborate tail of the peacock is a puzzle. It's huge, colorful, and makes flight more difficult. Why would evolution favor such a burden? The answer lies in sexual selection, a process where traits that improve mating success are favored, even if they reduce survival. Peahens prefer males with the largest, most symmetrical tails. Over time, this preference drove the evolution of extravagance. The tail is a signal, a costly, honest display of health and genetic fitness. It may seem impractical, but in the evolutionary marketplace of attraction, beauty can be worth the price. Chickens still carry genes for teeth. Modern chickens have beaks, but buried in their DNA are the dormant instructions for growing teeth, a legacy from their distant toothed ancestors. In rare laboratory experiments, scientists have been able to activate these ancient genes and induce the growth of rudimentary tooth structures in chicken embryos. The genes are still there, silent but intact, like archived blueprints. Evolution doesn't erase old instructions unless it has to. Instead, it layers new adaptations over old ones, sometimes leaving forgotten tools buried in the genome, ready to be rediscovered under the right conditions. Slime molds evolved collective intelligence. Slime molds are single-celled organisms that can merge into sprawling, multicellular networks. Despite lacking brains or nerves, they solve complex problems. like finding the shortest path through a maze or optimizing nutrient routes between multiple food sources. They do this by communicating through chemical signals, adjusting their shape and movement in real time. What we call intelligence has evolved in many forms, and slime molds represent one of the simplest, yet eerily effective. Their decision-making emerges not from neurons, but from the physics of self-organization. Evolution, it turns out, doesn't always need a mind to make a good choice. Some shrimp can snap so fast they create light. The pistol shrimp has evolved a specialized claw that snaps shut with such force it creates a bubble, and when that bubble collapses, it generates sound, heat, and even a tiny flash of light. This phenomenon, called cavitation, can stun or kill prey instantly. The temperatures inside the collapsing bubble briefly reach thousands of degrees, although in a tiny space. The shrimp itself is unharmed, protected by a hard exoskeleton and an evolutionary design that converts muscle power into explosive force. It's a reminder that evolution can turn simple parts, like a claw, into high-speed tools of astonishing precision. Pandas have a false thumb made from a wrist bone. Giant pandas spend most of their lives eating bamboo, and to grasp it efficiently, they evolved a curious feature, a sixth finger, made not from a digit, but from an enlarged wrist bone. This bone, the radial sesamoid, acts like a thumb, allowing them to hold and strip bamboo stalks with surprising dexterity. It's not a true finger, just a reworked part of the wrist. But in evolutionary terms, it works just as well. Natural selection doesn't require elegance or anatomical purity, only that the structure helps the animal survive and thrive. Tardigrades may have borrowed genes from other species. Tardigrades, also known as water bears, are microscopic creatures famous for their extreme survival abilities, including withstanding radiation, freezing, boiling, and the vacuum of space. One possible reason for this toughness lies in their genome. Studies suggest they may have acquired a portion of their DNA through horizontal gene transfer, meaning genes entered their genome from bacteria or other organisms. This process is rare in animals but common in microbes. If confirmed, it would suggest that evolution can sometimes cross species boundaries at the genetic level, blurring the line between inheritance and absorption. Birdsong is learned, not instinctive. In many songbirds, the beautiful, complex songs we hear are not hardwired at birth. Instead, young birds must listen, imitate, and practice, often learning from parents or nearby adults during a critical period. If raised in isolation, they never learn the full version of the song. This ability, known as vocal learning, is rare in the animal world and shares surprising parallels with human language development. Evolution crafted the bird brain to be plastic, flexible, adaptive, and responsive to sound. What begins as chirping becomes music, passed down not by genes, but by culture. Some jellyfish can age in reverse. The jellyfish Turritopsis donyanii has evolved a startling ability. When injured or stressed, it can revert its cells to an earlier developmental stage, effectively starting its life over. This process, called transdifferentiation, allows adult cells to transform into different types, rolling back biological time. The jellyfish returns to its polyp stage, anchored to a surface and capable of growing into a new adult. This cycle can repeat indefinitely, earning it the nickname the immortal jellyfish. It's not true immortality. They can still die, but evolution gave them a loophole in aging that no vertebrate has ever matched. Humans have a vestigial ear-twitching muscle. Behind your ear is a tiny band of muscle that, in most people, does absolutely nothing. But in some individuals, it still twitches faintly in response to sound. This is a vestige from earlier mammalian ancestors who could swivel their ears like radar dishes, tracking predators or prey. In animals like cats or deer, these muscles are still fully functional. In us, they remain only as dormant wiring, a faint anatomical memory of a more alert and animal-like past. Evolution doesn't always delete old functions. Sometimes it just lets them fade into silence. Female hyenas have evolved pseudopenises. In spotted hyenas, females have developed a reproductive anatomy that closely resembles the males, a trait known as a pseudopenis. This structure is used for urination, mating, and even giving birth. The reason is likely hormonal. Female hyenas are exposed to unusually high levels of androgens during development, which enhance aggression and social dominance. In their matriarchal society, females are larger, stronger, and higher ranking than males. The pseudopenis is not just a curiosity, it's part of a complex evolutionary trade-off that shapes social behavior, reproductive cost, and physical form in surprising ways. Cave beetles have lost wings and eyes. In the perpetual darkness of caves, many beetle species have evolved in reverse, shedding traits that are no longer useful. Their wings shrink or disappear entirely, and their eyes become reduced or vanish altogether. Over generations, energy that once went toward vision and flight is redirected to other senses, like touch and smell. This process is called regressive evolution, and it's common in isolated, resource-limited environments. It doesn't make the animal less evolved, just more specialized for its surroundings. In caves, blindness is not a defect. It's an advantage. Some salamanders can regrow entire limbs. While humans can heal cuts and fractures, some salamanders can do far more, regenerating entire limbs, including bones, muscles, nerves, and skin. If a leg is lost to a predator, it grows back over weeks or months, often perfectly functional. This ability comes from specialized cells that return to a stem-like state, capable of rebuilding complex structures. Evolution preserved this trait in certain amphibians, but lost it in most vertebrates. Scientists are now studying salamanders to understand whether the secrets of regeneration could one day be unlocked in ourselves. For them, it's simply biology, ancient, elegant, and routine. The coelacanth was thought extinct for 65 million years. For most of the 20th century, the coelacanth was known only from fossils, a lobe-finned fish believed to have vanished with the dinosaurs. Then, in 1938, a living specimen was pulled from the waters off South Africa. It was an evolutionary Lazarus, a species unchanged for hundreds of millions of years, surviving in deep, cold oceans where little else lives. Its fins resemble protolimbs, offering clues about how fish may have first walked onto land. The discovery of a living coelacanth didn't rewrite evolution, it confirmed it, showing how ancient lineages can endure far beyond what we imagine. Pufferfish evolved beak-like teeth to crush shells. Pufferfish are best known for their ability to inflate, but their most important evolutionary tool is their teeth. Fused into a strong beak-like structure, these teeth allow pufferfish to crush the hard shells of snails, clams, and crustaceans. Over time, their jaws adapted not just for biting, but for grinding, turning them into living nutcrackers. This dental fusion is so effective that pufferfish can even break apart coral. The beak is not made from new bones, but from the reshaping and merging of existing teeth, a subtle evolutionary edit that turned a simple mouth into a precision tool. Termites and cows share a digestive strategy. Despite their differences, termites and ruminants like cows have evolved a similar method for digesting tough plant material: symbiosis with microbes. Both groups house vast communities of bacteria and protozoa in specialized gut chambers, which break down cellulose into usable energy. In termites, this occurs in the hindgut. In cows, it begins in the multi-chambered stomach. The process allows both animals to thrive on food that most creatures can't digest. It's an evolutionary alliance where two species, host and microbe, evolve together, turning grass and wood into nourishment through ancient cooperation. Male anglerfish become permanent parasites. In some deep-sea anglerfish species, males are tiny compared to females, and evolution has taken their partnership to an extreme. When a male finds a mate, he latches onto her body with his teeth. Over time, their tissues fuse. His organs dissolve, except for the testes, which remain to supply sperm. He becomes a living appendage permanently attached, nourished by her bloodstream. This bizarre form of reproductive fusion evolved in an environment where finding a mate is rare. By eliminating separation, evolution solved the problem of distance, creating a union that is equal parts grotesque and efficient. Corals evolved sunscreen through fluorescence. In shallow tropical reefs, some corals glow with brilliant fluorescent colors, reds, greens, and blues. This glow is not just decorative. It serves as a kind of sunscreen, protecting the coral and its symbiotic algae from intense ultraviolet radiation. The fluorescence redirects harmful light into safer wavelengths, allowing photosynthesis to continue without damage. These pigments evolved independently in different coral species, tailored to specific depths and light conditions. Evolution, working at the molecular level, created a living shield, turning sunlight into color and color into survival. Whales and hippos are close relatives. Though one roams the land and the other rules the sea, hippos and whales share a surprising evolutionary connection. Genetic and fossil evidence places them both within a group called Artiodactyla, the even-toed ungulates. Their last common ancestor lived around 55 million years ago and likely resembled a semi-aquatic, pig-sized animal with hooves and a fondness for water. Over time, one lineage returned fully to the ocean and became cetaceans. The other stayed in the wetlands and became modern hippos. It's a reminder that evolutionary relationships are often hidden beneath the surface, shaped not by appearance, but by shared history. Transitional fossils connect every major group. One of the most persistent myths about evolution is that it lacks transitional fossils. But the truth is the opposite. From fish with protolimbs to early birds with teeth and claws, paleontologists have uncovered an extraordinary record of forms that blur the boundaries between major groups. Fossils like Tiktaalik, Archaeopteryx, and Australopithecus each capture a moment of transformation. These aren't missing links, they're well-documented branches on the tree of life. Evolution doesn't work in leaps, but in small, steady steps. And in the layers of stone beneath our feet, those steps are recorded in bone. Evolution sometimes moves in sudden bursts. While evolution is often described as gradual, the fossil record shows that species sometimes remain relatively unchanged for long periods, followed by brief intervals of rapid transformation. This pattern is called punctuated equilibrium. It suggests that most evolutionary change occurs in isolated populations over short geological timescales, often triggered by environmental shifts, migration, or new ecological niches. These bursts leave distinct signatures in the fossil record, with new species appearing suddenly, rather than emerging smoothly from one form to the next. Evolution doesn't always flow like a river. Sometimes it leaps like a spark. Some fish evolved antifreeze more than once. In the icy waters of the Arctic and Antarctic, several fish species have evolved special proteins that prevent their blood from freezing. These antifreeze proteins bind to ice crystals and stop them from growing. Remarkably, Arctic cod and Antarctic notothonioids evolved these proteins independently, using entirely different genetic starting points. This is a striking case of convergent evolution, two separate solutions to the same lethal problem. When water dips below zero, survival depends not on strength or speed, but on biochemistry. And in these fish, evolution answered the cold with molecular ingenuity. Snakes still carry the blueprint for legs. Though modern snakes are legless, their genomes still contain remnants of the genes responsible for limb development. In pythons and boas, tiny vestigial hind limb bones, called pelvic spurs, can still be found near the tail. These are not functional legs, but they are evolutionary ghosts. Embryonic snakes even begin to form limb buds before the process is halted. Genetic studies have shown that the loss of legs was not due to a single mutation, but a gradual accumulation of changes that shut down the limb-building program. The blueprints are still there, filed away, unused. Your DNA contains the remains of ancient viruses. Over millions of years, retroviruses have inserted their genetic material into the DNA of our ancestors, and some of it remains there today. Roughly 8% of the human genome is made of viral sequences, passed down through generations like genetic fossils. Most are no longer active, but a few may still influence how our genes are expressed. These fragments, called endogenous retroviruses, are a record of ancient infections that shaped our evolutionary past. Evolution isn't just about adaptation and survival. It's also about the traces of ancient battles, written into the code of life itself. Fish fins became hands in four-limbed animals. The bones of your hand, the radius, ulna, wrist, and fingers evolved from the fin structures of ancient lobe-finned fish. Fossils like Tiktaalik show the transition clearly, with jointed fins that could support weight and allow motion in shallow water. Over time, these bones were reshaped into limbs capable of walking on land. Genetic studies confirm the same developmental genes pattern both fish fins and human hands. Evolution didn't start from scratch. It modified an existing framework. Every time you move your fingers, you're using tools shaped by a lineage that once swam through ancient seas. Feathers evolved before flight. Feathers did not originate for flying. Early feathered dinosaurs likely used them for insulation, camouflage, or display, long before any creature took to the air. Fossils show that primitive feathers appeared in small theropod dinosaurs, some of which had elaborate plumage but no clear adaptations for flight. Only later did feathers become refined for gliding and powered flight in birds. Evolution often co-opts existing features for new purposes, a process known as exaptation. What began as warmth became lift. What once decorated the body became wings. The human sense of smell is ancient and surprisingly strong. Though often considered weaker than in other animals, the human sense of smell is still remarkably sensitive. We can detect over 1 trillion different scents, thanks to a vast family of olfactory receptor genes, many of which have been inherited and modified across millions of years. These genes originated early in vertebrate evolution, when smell played a central role in survival, navigation, and communication. In humans, many have been deactivated, but the ones that remain are still potent. Evolution didn't remove our ability to smell, it simply tuned it for a different world, one where vision took center stage. Some insects evolved to mimic leaves so perfectly they even have bite marks. Leaf insects have evolved an extraordinary form of camouflage. Not only do they resemble leaves in shape and color, but some species display markings that mimic insect-chewed holes. Their legs look like stems, their bodies sway gently like foliage in the wind, and their coloration can match the exact hue of surrounding plants. This level of detail evolved through countless generations of natural selection, where those that best resembled inedible leaves were most likely to survive. It's an illusion so complete that even predators struggle to distinguish life from plant matter. Evolution, in this case, became an artist. Humans are still evolving. Evolution didn't stop with the invention of agriculture or language or cities. It continues in subtle ways today. Genes related to lactose tolerance, high-altitude survival, disease resistance, and even brain structure have all changed in human populations within the last 10,000 years. In some regions, natural selection has favored people with thicker bones, better heat tolerance, or altered metabolism. Cultural changes create new pressures and new directions for evolution to explore. We are not a finished product. We are part of a living process, changing still, just more quietly than before. The shells of turtles are made from their ribs. The turtle shell is not an external structure like armor. It is built from the animal's own skeleton. The broad fused plates that form the shell are modified ribs and vertebrae that curve outward and then harden. This unique adaptation evolved gradually, with fossil evidence showing transitional forms that had partially expanded ribs but no full shell. The result is an animal whose body is shaped like its fortress. Evolution didn't add something new, it folded what was already there into a living shield. The turtle carries its skeleton on the outside, like a fortress grown from within. Feeding young with milk evolved before live birth. Milk is the defining trait of mammals, but it may have evolved before mammals gave birth to live young. In early mammalian ancestors, milk may have served not just as food, but as a way to keep eggs moist and protect them from infection. Over time, it became more nutrient-rich and eventually replaced the egg entirely. Even monotremes, mammals like the platypus and echidna that still lay eggs, produce milk to nourish their young. This evolutionary sequence shows how one adaptation can shift in function, slowly taking over new roles. What began as moisture became sustenance, and eventually a defining trait of an entire class of life. The human chin has no clear function. Unlike most bones in the body, the human chin has no obvious mechanical or structural role. It doesn't help with chewing or speech, and other primates do just fine without it. Yet every modern human has one. Some scientists believe the chin is a byproduct of shrinking jaw size during evolution, a remnant left behind as our faces became flatter and less robust. Others suggest it may play a role in sexual selection or facial structure. Whatever its origin, the chin is a small anatomical mystery, a reminder that not every feature is the result of purposeful design. Some are just leftovers that never went away. Goosebumps are a vestige of fur. When you feel cold or afraid, tiny muscles at the base of each hair follicle contract, causing the hairs on your skin to stand up. In animals with thick fur, this reflex fluffs up the coat for insulation, or makes the animal appear larger in the face of danger. In humans, with our mostly hairless skin, the effect is nearly useless, a phantom signal from a past we no longer live in. Goosebumps are an evolutionary relic, a physical echo of a time when our ancestors relied on fur to stay warm, and fear raised their hair like armor. Crows and ravens evolved intelligence rivaling primates. Members of the corvid family, including crows, ravens, and jays, have evolved exceptional cognitive abilities. They use tools, solve puzzles, recognize faces, and even plan for future needs. Their brains are structured differently from those of mammals, yet they exhibit many of the same intelligent behaviors found in apes and dolphins. This is an example of convergent evolution at the level of cognition, where vastly different brain structures evolved similar mental capabilities. Intelligence, it turns out, is not tied to one shape or species. It can emerge wherever the pressures for problem-solving and memory are strong enough. Flightless birds evolved all over the world. Flightlessness has evolved many times in birds, in ostriches, emus, kiwis, rheas, and penguins, among others. Often, this happens on islands or in predator-free environments where the energy cost of flight outweighs its benefits. Once grounded, these birds often evolve powerful legs for running or swimming instead. The wings shrink, the breastbone flattens, and the body shifts toward balance and speed. Flight, though remarkable, is not always necessary. And in the right setting, evolution takes it away, not as a loss, but as a shift in focus toward life on land or sea. The human brain tripled in size in just a few million years. Compared to other primates, the human brain is an evolutionary outlier, especially the neocortex, where reasoning, language, and imagination live. In less than 3 million years, our ancestors went from chimp-sized brains to the massive, energy-hungry organ we carry today. This rapid expansion may have been driven by many forces: tool use, social complexity, environmental challenges, or language. Whatever the cause, the result is a brain that consumes 20% of our resting energy and gives rise to art, technology, and science. Evolution doesn't always move slowly. Sometimes it races ahead. Wisdom teeth are a shrinking legacy. Our ancestors had larger jaws and more teeth, including a full third set of molars, now known as wisdom teeth. These helped grind tough, raw foods long before cooking and agriculture. But as our diets changed and our faces grew smaller, there was no longer room for those extra teeth. Today, many people have them removed, or never develop them at all. In some populations, the gene for wisdom teeth is slowly being lost. They are a reminder of a chewing-intensive past, one that modern jaws no longer accommodate. Evolution continues, one dental appointment at a time. You are an evolutionary mosaic. Your body is not the product of a single plan, but a patchwork of adaptations layered over deep time. Your spine is a modified fish skeleton. Your hands are repurposed fins. Your lungs evolved from air bladders. Even your hiccups may be echoes of an amphibian past. Every part of you carries stories from organisms long extinct, each cell and structure sculpted by ancient pressures, environments, and accidents. You are not separate from the tree of life. You are a branch on it, still growing, still changing, a living mosaic of everything that came before. And so, across oceans and forests, deserts and genomes, we've wandered through 100 quiet glimpses of how life shapes itself slowly, strangely, and always in motion. Evolution is not just about fossils and stone. It's written in feathers, fingers, instincts, and quiet anatomical echoes. It lives in the curve of your spine, the muscles in your jaw, the rhythm of your breath. Even now, the process continues. In bacteria beneath glaciers, in birds shifting their songs, in the quiet inheritance of genes passed from one generation to the next. Nothing stands still, not even us. And so, under the quiet stars, the story continues. I hope you sleep well and dream softly. Good night.